Alan Wynne-Jones has declared himself potentially fit for the Lions. How crucial is that for the Lions?
Well, look, obviously I know nothing about the medical side of what he's actually done. I think it'd be amazing, when the game was on and I saw the way the guy cleared it out, I said there's something, definitely he's done something to his shoulder. Now, I'm not going to ever rule Alan Wynne-Jones out. You don't get 150 caps for your country without being durable and everything else. I think it would be great for him if that means they sort of pull him back on tour and he's just around. I think having someone with that vast experience around the group, and he's got that personality that wouldn't then take away from Conor Murray or of his day job, who would just add to the group. So if it means that he's going to be out there and supporting the lads, and then he can try and get fit, then it just makes the British and Irish Lions squad stronger again. So look, fingers crossed, and we'll see where we get to with it.
We'll be playing at altitude.
Pretty sure Beard won't be that happy about it, but
they'll be playing at altitude. How much of an effect or advantage will that be?
I wonder. Have they made their mind upon that yet either as well? I think there's a lot of things that are going to change in this tour. I think first and foremost, I think they made a little bit of a mistake giving us sea level to start off with in that first test. The British and Irish Lions have to win that first test, and you're giving them the best chance of doing it by sticking it at sea level. Obviously then I think the next two are at altitude. So it will make a difference, but they don't leave any stone unturned for the British and Irish Lions. I know Paul Stridgen, the head of the S&C, I know they've been doing altitude training. They're doing that constantly. Science now in rugby is so high that they'll be ticking all the boxes and making sure they leave, as I say, no stone unturned. So, but that doesn't ever change for the actual effect of being there and playing the game at that level. So. But as I said, they need to win that first test, and I think they've given them the best chance of it by having it in Cape Town, the first one, right?
Playing in empty stadiums, how much of an impact does that have as a player when you're actually in battle?
Look, I think we've seen over the past year and a half the effect that having no fans in stadiums, and you can see now you just look at the semi-finals and finals with fans back and the difference in the level of rugby, and it does make a big difference. You are very aware of it when you're on the pitch, not whilst the game is actually going, but in breaks of play, and you sense momentum, you sense that the crowd feel momentum. So if you're on the forefront, you can feel that energy behind you, and then obviously if it's vice versa, you can feel the hostility, especially out of a South African crowd, because they are generally one of those hostile crowds, like being in the Principality in Wales. You've got to deal with that as well and put them on the back foot, and whereas if there's no fans in the stadium, you don't have to deal with that. It's almost like a team run, so all the self-motivation has to come from within the group, but I think we've got quite a lot of noisy people who you talk about some Farrell, or we talked about Alan Wynne, you talk about Marrow, those guys who pump people up and keep that noise and keep that energy within the group, and you'll need those guys going into stadiums.
It's been quite interesting watching the national anthems over the last few months, when either it's been the rugby or the football. The players don't seem to give it as much gusto on the anthems. Again, is that because of the crowds? Would you always belt it out when you were given the opportunity?
No, see, I wasn't necessarily a belter outer. I sort of quite liked listening to it. I sang it, but I quite like listening to it being sang back to you. Well, obviously you can't do that. I think going into the Lions, I think you'll see a lot of should we call them Lawrence Dallaglio faces, where the eyes are welling up, and I think because it is such an emotional thing playing for the British and Irish Lions, not that I know, but you can see the way people talk about it, the way they're presenting it at the moment. They build it around this. You've earned this jersey and you've got to respect this jersey, and I think that is something that the British and Irish Lions and the fans who are around it have always respected, and each player sort of pays homage to that. The way they receive their first jersey, when they talk about their kit, it's always special. So I don't think you'll have any lack of passion and lack of emotion when they get to that first test and they're singing that national anthem.
You've got a life now in wine and sports media, charity work. How much do you still miss the game?
Look, I'm very fortunate that every now and again I get to come and run out for my local club at Minchinhampton. Not as much as I'd like to, and not as much as I did a couple of years ago, but unfortunately that's life, and then that's 3 children, and then that's just the way it is. But look, I don't miss being a professional rugby player. I miss the crack between the lads, which everyone does, and that's why people still come to their local rugby clubs, because of that social element. And if I can get down here and play, I get that fulfilment. Obviously you're always going to miss the big occasion where you're in front of 80,000 people or 90,000 people and you're playing big games, but that's the sort of the creme at the top of the glass. There's a lot of hard work and sweat and tears that goes into it before you can get to that, and the day-to-day is not easy as a professional rugby player, so I'm definitely not missing double, triple training and things like that.
No, but you obviously still
I'd look better in my budgies if I was still doing that. But
you still get a buzz out of putting a Minchinhampton rugby shirt on.
Yeah, I still love the game. I love playing it. I love watching other people play it and enjoying it. We have some great young players down here that if you get to play with them in the first, or ultimately where the Rams is probably where I like it, but less serious. You get to watch kids at the start of their journey. Coming back from uni, and they lift the team, they lift the old fellas in the team, and you feed off their energy, and it's just a joy to sort of run along and be along for the ride.
Yeah, and rugby's very all-inclusive at Minch, as it is in lots of clubs, isn't it? There's a heavy amount of women playing now as well, girls.
Yeah, I mean we've got we've had a women's touch team for a while now, and we've played around with trying to get a women's team together, and it's definitely in the pipeline. It's something we're pushing hard to do, and we've got a lot of girls that come down here and want to play. So hopefully within the distant future we'll have regular fixtures for them as well.
Are you keen for your girls to get into it?
Look, I don't mind. Would I say I would want them to go down that route? Possibly not, knowing what I know from being a professional rugby player and how hard it is, and it's you don't necessarily always want to see your daughter smashing around her body, but if she wants to, she'll get all the support she'll get, and she'll get as much. She'll probably then get a nauseous dad who's telling her everything that she needs to be doing and what she needs to be doing. So for her sake, I actually hope she doesn't, because it'll make her life way easier if she picks a different sport that I know nothing about.